Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So as you can tell by the title of this video, we'll be talking about winter today and some early signs that are pointing towards a possible interesting winter, if not a snow and cold one, especially for the northern and eastern United States. So stay tuned if you guys want to hear more about this. And if you guys would like to subscribe to the channel, please feel free to do so, as I do all sorts of weather-related content. And I'm a hobbyist, not a meteorologist, but I love making the weather predictions, and people, 17,000 people agree with me like the weather as much as I do. So considering that, if you're a returning viewer, consider liking the video. Let's get into this video. So right now we're looking at a ENSO neutral. Look, we're in an ENSO neutral, right? And ENSO is basically a region off of the South America, which the waters off South America, and whether or not those waters are above normal or below average. If they are below average, it is a La Nina. If it is a El Nino, it is above average, and if it's a neutral, it is neither. And you can see that. So right now we are in a neutral, and we were in an El Nino at the beginning of the year, except this only goes from current out to however long. But you could see that we were in an El Nino, now we're in a neutral, and we're most likely going to get into a La Nina. So what does this mean? What does this La Nina mean for us in the United States? Well, I'll show you what that means throughout this whole video. But what I wanted to look at is show you the years that I chose for this video and why I chose them. Okay, I'll be showing you several years, month by month, years that I think will be similar to this year. So if you can look at the bottom of the slide, actually it's just out of the viewing area. Hopefully we could wait for this to disappear, the taskbar. And I want to show you that, basically all I have to know is we were from a neutral into an El Nino, or from an El Nino into a neutral into a La Nina. And I chose years that were very similar. And the first year that I chose that was similar enough was, I didn't choose 2016, 2017, even though El Nino, neutral, La Nina, because we went from a record-breaking El Nino, which is just really skewing up the data, would skew up the data of the record-breaking El Nino, and I don't want to do that. So my first year that I chose was this year. 2010, a relatively moderate El Nino. We went through a period of neutral, and then we went into a La Nina. Now, this La Nina was a bit stronger than forecasted to be this year, but it's pretty close in terms of the ENSO pattern, and I'll show you month by month what happened. Now, there's also another thing that's a bit convincing, but I'll talk about that later. The next year I chose was 2007, 2008. You can see it started off as an El Nino, ended the year and started off the year as an El Nino, and then we went into neutral, and then into a La Nina. That could happen again this year. Again, that's another similar year. And then the next year I chose was actually I chose 4 years. The next year was 2005, El Nino, neutral into a La Nina. And this one is more similar to what we have this year. You can see it's a bit more on a calm side, if you will. It's not as intense, the El Nino, and the La Nina isn't as intense either, which is forecasted to be this year. And then I also chose 1995, El Nino, neutral into a La Nina. So you can see the pattern that I chose. Now I'll go through, we have, I think, 32 slides of months that I want to show you, why I think there's some reasonable data. So you can see that we have August 2010 here, and this year's August is forecasted to be very warm across much of the country. So what I was looking for when I was looking at these years was trying to see if there's a correlation between a warm August and potentially what's going to happen during the winter months. And all these years that I chose, just to give you a little I guess summary before we even get into this, all the years that I chose had a warm August, and I didn't choose just the years that had warm August. I chose random years that were similar to this year based on the ENSO, and they all had warm Julys and warm Augusts. You can see August 2010 was very warm. September 2010 got a little bit chillier to the north, a few Arctic blast invasions, really nothing too extraordinary though. We have a lot of warm air to the south. And then October 2010, you can see it stays warm, and each year is very similar in the fact that we have a very warm fall. And you can see that October 2010 was very warm. By November, the warmth starts kind of dwindling away. We get more of these cooler spots. You can see across the British Columbia and across Alberta and into the southwest. A bit warmer across the Great Lakes. But then notice we get into December, we see a big cool spot across the eastern United States and into parts of the northwest. The only area where it's above average is portions of extreme northeast, Maine, and then parts of the southwest. And then when you get into January 2011, when you can see that there's not a single area that is below average. In fact, it's all normal or slightly below average. Okay. And then we see February 2011, which is just a outbreak of very, very cold temperatures. And if I were to put in March 2011, which I didn't, it was also very cold. So this is the summary from November through March in terms of the precipitation rate. You could see we have quite a bit of, if you will, drier weather across the southern U.S. and weather across the northern U.S. So that's the summary I wanted to give you with that. You could see. Now let's compare it to the 2007, 2008 years and see if there are any similar. August, again, very warm, a bit of cooler air to the north, but very similar to the August I just showed you. September 2007, warmer than a September in 2010, but generally you could still see the warmth is the cold weather is not prevalent, and the warmth is still dominating like it was in the 2010 one. 2007 October, very warm, and this has been probably the most remarkable trend that October seems to be very, very warm among all these months. So I have pretty high confidence that this October may be one of those months where we could be looking at 80s and 90s across even portions of the Midwest this year on a few occasions. Obviously, it won't be every day like in July, but it could get pretty warm still. And you can see the only areas where it is cooler, I want to point out, is the Northwest and the West, and that seems to hold true. This August forecast for this year has the most cool air across the Northwest. This July that just passed had the most cool air across the Northwest. So just a lot of features are really holding themselves true. And you can see September was warm, October was warm. November got a little bit cooler. We got a little bit more spots of cool air across the east. Still warmer across the west, though. You can see now it kind of flips around. And it seems like November is always a breakthrough month where things start cooling down. And by December, we're getting into more of a below average pattern. We start seeing the temperatures dwindle or move to the south, the above average ones. And we see much below average conditions to the north. You can see January, we see even more cold weather for this year, 2008. Kind of a hot spot across southeastern Canada, but generally much of the United States is below average, especially the Northwest. February, you could see, was also below average. And now you can see this is the surface precipitation rate for those years, November through February. We have much above across the Great Lakes and into the Northeast, while above across the Southeast, Upper Plains, Texas, and parts of California. But also have a few spots across the Northwest and the Southwest where we have above average precipitation. So interesting to see that, if this were to pan out, this winter was like the 2007, 2008 one, we could have had a above average snowfall season, because I remember the 2007-2008 season in Chicago led to around 50 inches of snow, which was above average. Now let's look at the 2005-2006 year, which was again similar to this year. This is the one outlier year where things get a little bit different. You can see August has a little bit more cooler air. September is warm, so that's consistent. October is warm, so that's consistent. But you can see that November is also pretty warm, which usually it seems to be with the other years that at this point things start cooling off. But again, I'm showing you this year for a reason. I could have easily ignored this year, but no, I want to show you this because I want to point out that a year like this, where everything seems to be lining up, could still end up being warm. Even though if 3 out of the 4, even if we have a 3/4 chance of seeing cold over warm, we could still see that warm. And you could see that December was a bit cooler, but still kind of a lot of warm to the north. And January was the one where really it set things off, and it was just a very warm month. And that's not with the pattern that I've been showing you. But again, it could still occur a year like this. February got cooled off a little bit, and then you can see November through February. I forgot to adjust this picture. I apologize. It's not centered, but this is the precipitation. Again, wetter to the north, drier to the south, so pretty consistent with what we've been seeing. Now let's look at the 95-96 winter. This winter is the most extreme in terms of cold, but it definitely shows us the extreme scenario that could happen. You could see August was cooler across the Northwest. Again, what's forecast to happen this year. Warmer across the rest of the country, consistent with all the other years. September was a bit cooler, and you can see that it had quite a bit of cool air. But I don't think that will happen this year, but it's definitely a possibility. But this is the one outlier for the year, for this year, the September. It was definitely the 1995 September was definitely not consistent with the rest of the years. October, though, you can see the warmth kind of came back. It was a bit mixed, a little of cool spots, but definitely still warm across the east, southwest, and even the northern U.S. But then November came, and you can see it was just an absolute, it was just an Arctic outbreak. That's no other way to describe the colors on this map. While it stayed pretty darn hot in the southwest. So now let's keep moving on into December. You could see staying warmer across the southwest, but really staying cool and chilly, even as far as the southeast. So, I generally think that the higher chance this year of seeing cool weather is going to be across the north and the northwest. But you could see that there could be some outlier years where it gets a little bit flipped around. We get, because I think it's going to be warm this year across the southwest, but maybe not this warm. I think the northwest will be cooler. But the southwest warmer. But you can see this scenario hasn't much the cooler air to the north, while it extends a lot of the cooler air further into portions of the northeast and into the southeast and northern United States. Then we see January. You could see the northwest gets a bit cooler, and then February things start getting a bit more, I guess, closer to average, not as big of anomalies. Still staying on a cooler side across much of the northern and northwestern United States. So you could see that there's definitely a reason to be excited for this upcoming winter, as 3 out of the 4 winters I showed you are looking cool, while the 2005-2006 one is looking pretty warm. And again, we're sharing a lot in common, not just the Enzo, but also with the warm July and warm August, which if we have this year, a warm August, which it's looking like as if we will. Right now there's a cool phase across the United States, but it looks as if it'll get warm pretty quickly. If we get a warm July and warm August, and generally a warm fall, then I think that points to an even more exciting winter. So thank you guys so much for watching. Consider liking this video. Consider subscribing to this channel. Also, this is the precipitation for a 95-96 winter. The Northeast got a lot of snow, and so did the Northwest, but anywhere else was closer to normal. But the precipitation rate is kind of it only goes above average once a lot of precip falls. You could still see an above average snowfall season without seeing it blue on this map. So because remember, the snowfall ratios change. It could be a 10-to-1 or a 30-to-1 depending on the temperatures, and with the winter being cold, snowfall ratios are more likely to be high, which results in more snow with less precip, rain. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode. See ya.